First team to win consecutive Shield title. First team to win 50 points in a single ISL season. Most number of wins in a single ISL season. Most number of clean sheets in a single ISL season. Most number of minutes gone without conceding a single goal. These were some records broken by Mohun Bagan Super Giants on their way through their second Shield title, and it has been an absolutely phenomenal season by Jose Molina's team. But behind all of this success, behind all of these records, there has been some brilliant work going behind the scenes, and that is exactly what we're going to talk about in this video. We'll be talking about the 5 reasons why Mohun Bagan was able to clinch their consecutive Shield title, and we'll discuss the reasons what led them to a spectacular season. Number 1, the brilliant signings made by Mohun Bagan. Before the beginning of the season, the talk of the town were the signings made by the 2 big Kolkata clubs, East Bengal and Mohun Bagan. East Bengal signed the top scorer of the league last year. They signed the top assist provider of the league last year. They signed possibly India's best defender from Mohun Bagan and Anwar Ali. Signed superstars like Jeekson Singh as well. And a lot of the early season predictions, a lot of the early season bets were on East Bengal. But subtly behind the background, I think Mohun Bagan did some phenomenal business for this particular year. I think the signings of Jamie McLaren is probably one of the most high profile signings ever to have been done for Indian football. We've had legends come in at the twilight of their career, but Jamie McLaren, one of the best players to play in the A-League coming to ISL, was one big signing. But not just him. Let us look at some of the names that Mohun Bagan has signed. They signed Greg Stewart. They signed Apuya. They had Tom Eldred and Alberto Rodriguez come in as well. And these players played a major role in them clinching their title. Rodriguez and Eldred were at the heart of the defense, ensuring a record-breaking defensive season. At the same time, Jamie McLaren hit the ground running and is the top scorer for Mohun Bagan this season. Greg Stewart has been phenomenal and has given a tough competition to Dimi Petratos for that number 10 position. And Apuya has gone under the radar because does the dirty work, does not score a lot of goals, but I think Apuya's signing has been absolutely phenomenal. So just the business done by Mohun Bagan has been absolutely phenomenal. I think they signed the players that Jose Molina needed. They signed the players that actually fit the player profile that they were looking for. And I think more important than the signings was how Jose Molina got them to play as a team, because even East Bengal made tons and tons of brilliant signings. I still think they've made some phenomenal signings, but unfortunately they've not managed to get them to play together brilliant football, and injuries obviously haven't helped. Attack wins you matches and defense wins you titles. This is probably one of the most cliched football sayings, and I think this season was a perfect example of why we say that defense wins you titles. In this record-breaking season for Mohun Bagan, they had 14 clean sheets. I think they've just conceded 14 goals if I'm not wrong, and the 5 defenders including the goalkeeper, and 6 if you include Dipendu Biswas as well. I think they have been absolutely phenomenal. I think जब मैंने मोहन बगान की वीडियो भी बनाई थी, I mentioned how defensive dominant they have been. If you include the 2 pivots as well, which you consider more of as defensive players, and you add the 4 defenders, where apart from Ashish Rai, the other 3 are very defense-minded players, right? And Vishal Kaith, we need to talk about Vishal Kaith. Does not play a lot for India, does not get a lot of credit. I think a lot of time goes under the radar. But I think the importance of Vishal Kaith for this Mohun Bagan team and his importance in securing a title, I think credit where credit is due. And I think Vishal Kaith has been one of the most consistent goalkeepers the Indian domestic circuit has seen. And I think it's high time that we see Vishal Kaith in the Indian blue as well. And I would not be surprised, because Gurpreet Singh Sandhu being best for Bengaluru FC, and I think a possibility after a brilliant season again by Vishal Kaith, I genuinely hope that he gets a look in the Indian national team as well. But I think the solid defensive base, not conceding a goals as an attacker, knowing that I just need to score one or I just need to get a goal because I know my defense will not concede, and having that confidence that I have a very strong backline, I think gives a lot of freedom to the attackers as well. And I think that is also what we saw at the end of the season. I think at the initial part of the season, attackers were probably, slightly subdued or slightly, not performing at the levels expected out of them, not scoring too many goals. But I think with the way that the defense maintained their shape, contributed in goals, I think it also gave a push to the attack to do their job as well, which eventually they obviously did, right? But I think the solid defensive base was another major reason why Mohun Bagan was able to have a phenomenal season. Number 3, and again another important factor which cannot be ignored, a non-footballing factor but one which cannot be ignored, is the money put in by the owners, right? Let us be frank that corporates coming into football, I think, would only help football. Yes, you can have certain reservations, certain restrictions with the way how things are structured. But I think with Sanjeev Goenka and the Goenka group coming in as a major stakeholder, I think the money coming in has played a major role. If you don't have the money, you don't sign players like Jamie McLaren, Jason Cummings, Apuya, Tom Aldred or Rodriguez, right? So, you need money for that. Unfortunately, some of the smaller clubs जिनके financially इतने ज़्यादा नहीं है, they would not have been able to make these signings, right? They would not have been able to provide with a brilliant, facilities. And I think whether we have to agree or not, I think this was a major factor, and this will continue to be a major factor for Mohun Bagan. And I think the next step now for Mohun Bagan is to do well continentally, to do well in AFC competitions, AFC club competitions. So with the money, with the superstars that they have, I think money has played a big factor. Just being able to bring in some of the top players of the continent like Jamie McLaren and get in a coach like Jose Molina, who was one of, in a very, administrative position with Spain, but still getting someone like Molina after a title season last year as well with Habas and Fernando. But again, I think money played a major role in the success that Mohun Bagan had this. The fourth reason why Mohun Bagan was phenomenal this year was because of the contributions from the entire team. Mohun Bagan through the course of the year had 10 different goal scorers. I think the last video I made on Northeast United where, I told their over dependency on Aladin Ajare, if this was a similar case with Mohun Bagan might not find themselves at the top of the table, at least for the first half of the season, their strikers or their midfielders weren't scoring too many goals, and it was the defenders stepping in, whether it was Subhashish Bose, whether it was Rodriguez, whether it was even Dipendu Biswas chipping in with some goals, right? So goal contribution from the entire squad was a major part, that even in some difficult matches where, Mohun Bagan managed to win by the single goal, I think it was their defenders, it was their defensive players who were also chipping in with goals. And I think just as even as a forward, I've mentioned this earlier as well, this gives a lot of push and also a lot of confidence that goals can come from the entire 11. 10 goal scorers in a shorter competition like in Indian Super League is a great goal contribution by Mohun Bagan, and considering the fact they had more of a core established of the team, right? So I think contributions coming in from everyone also releases a lot of pressure on the front players, which gives them freedom to experiment, which gives them freedom to do what forwards do, dribble past players, do the fancy things and take chances that builds them confidence. So I think that is probably, this is one major difference between, let's say, Northeast United and a Mohun Bagan, that the goal contributions, they aren't overly dependent on one player, which meant contributions coming on from everyone. And now where you see, the difference between the points of a Mohun Bagan and Northeast United. Yes, there are other reasons, we can't ignore the other reasons, but I think it is a big factor, when everyone in the team contributes with important goals. And, we saw their defenders have scored more than 10 goals, right? So I think a brilliant place to be in as a manager, as a fan, as management, just when you have such a solid team. And last but not the least, I think the Indian contingency, the Indian squad of Mohun Bagan, I think is by far the strongest Indian contingency we have in any ISL team, right? And this gives you the squad depth that every team would want, every manager in ISL would love to have. And a lot of complaints. I saw a lot of comments on my Northeast video, yeah, that Northeast does not have a lot of bench strength, right? Now let us see the players, that Mohun Bagan has, the Indian contingency first that Mohun Bagan has. Manveer Singh starts regularly for India. Listen Karaso starts regularly for India. Apuya starts regularly for India. Subhashish Bose plays regularly for India. Anirudh Thapa plays regularly for India. Deepak Tangri made his debut, put in some brilliant performances. Ashik Roonian, before his injury, played regularly for India. Ashish Rai was playing regularly for India. Vishal Keth, I would be very surprised if he doesn't play for India very soon, right? So 8 to 9 players who are in the squad of the Indian national team. Imagine, I don't think so any other team in the Indian Super League has that luxury, right? And what this does is add squad depth, is add bench strength. Let's talk about the bench strength then. Having, let's say two number 9s like Jamie McLaren and Jason Cummings. Having number 10s like Demi Petratos, Greg Stewart, Abdul Samad. Having midfielders like Deepak Tangri, Anirudh Thapa, Apuya. Having wingers like Liston Kulaso, Manveer Singh, Ashik Roonian. Fullbacks like Ashish Rai, Subhashish Bose. A goalkeeper like Vishal Keth, a substitute goalkeeper in Dheeraj. So imagine the level of squad depth, the luxury that Jose Molina has as a manager to choose from. And having this luxury, because when an injury happens, let's say when Dimi was injured or when Greg Stewart was injured, they had each other to replace. Let's say when probably, Jason Cummings was not in the best form through the course of the tournament, it was Jamie McLaren who stepped up. There were times when Kolaso stepped up, there were times when Manveer stepped up, right? So just having that solid base of Indian players, right, I think was a luxury that no other team, let us admit, no other team in the Indian Super League has. But that does not also take away from the fact that Jose Molina as a coach had such a wonderful season, coming back to Kolkata, coming back to manage, he was with ATK, he's now with Mohun Bagan, but coming back to Kolkata and managing a Kolkata team. And credit must go to Jose Molina with the brilliant tactical work that he's done with Mohun Bagan. And if you're curious to know the tactics behind this successful team, I've already made a video tactically analyzing Mohun Bagan and why Jose Molina's team is so defensively solid, and at the same time, how do they attack, how do they defend, how do they line up. So if you like this video, go ahead and watch this video. I'll add the link in the description as well. More importantly, if you liked the video, if you liked what Football Unplugged has to offer, subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments what is the next video you'd want me to make, and let me know what you feel about this video. And thank you so much for tuning in. It's always been an honor.